What if I made a Pokemon farming sim? G'day everyone, Rune here, and if there is one game genre that I absolutely adore, it is the farming sim. Harvest Moon / Story of Seasons, Rune Factory, Stardew Valley, Harvestella, you get the idea. So you can imagine how disappointing it is that with all of the Pokemon spin-offs, we have never gotten a farming spin-off. Seriously, I would play the heck out of that. Which is why I decided to make this video talking about what I would do to make a Pokemon farming sim. I'll be going over some of the mechanics, the romanceable characters, and the general overarching story, the festivals, and anything else I can think of that is important to this game. With all of that said, let's get into the meat of this video. Okay, so first thing I need to do is to establish what kind of farming sim I want this game to be, because there's many different types out there. However, most of them fall into two categories, the life sims and the RPGs. For life sims, I'd say those are your Story of Seasons or Animal Crossings, games where the story is very minimal and it's mostly just you and whatever you want to do. RPG farming sims are like Rune Factory and Harvestella, where there's a big overarching story and you're adventuring through dungeons, and the farming is mostly there to give you stuff to use in those dungeons and a place to use as your base. Now, this isn't a strict binary definition, as Story of Seasons does have an emphasis on the story in several of its titles, and Stardew Valley is a fusion of the two. This is just a very basic way to describe the two forms of farming sims I'm most familiar with and what I'll be drawing from. Now, considering Pokemon is already an RPG, that means that there's going to be RPG elements no matter what. However, I don't want this to be an RPG in the same vein as Rune Factory or Harvestella, with their big overarching plots that involve saving the world, because we already get that with the main games and most of the spin-offs. So this game will be more along the lines of Story of Seasons and Stardew Valley, where any and all story is very local, small, down to earth, and very personal. Now that the tone of the game is established, it's time to get into the mechanics of the game, starting with, of course, the farming. There's a lot of overlap with how this works between farming sims, but there are 4 games that I've always favoured in this aspect. Rune Factory 4, Rune Factory Frontier, Story of Seasons, and Story of Seasons Trio of Towns. Rune Factory 4 because not only did you have areas of the overworld where you could farm season-specific crops, but each seed you planted could and often did grow several of that crop for one square of farm. Frontier, on the other hand, only grew 1 crop each square, however, 1 bag of seed would give you 9 squares of crop. And for the Story of Seasons games, each field gave you 2 3x3 plots, and 1 bag of seed filled 1 plot. And it's the latter 2 that I'm going to be taking inspiration from for this. So here's how it works. Your field is really big, even though most of it won't be available to you at the start. Plots are segmented visually into 3x3 squares, which you plow with your hoe or appropriate Pokemon, more on that later, in order to sow seeds. Each bag of seeds fills 1 3x3 plot. When you first start, your hoe will only be able to plow 1 plot at a time, but you'll later be able to upgrade it to plow more at once. You care for these crops by watering them, and your watering can water 1 plot at a time until it's upgraded. Sorry if this feels redundant, but I feel it's important to explain the farming itself first and what exact flavour of farming would be used since there's so many. But now that we've got that out of the way, we can get into how the Pokémon interact with the farming mechanics. First thing to understand is that each Pokémon type has an ability. For Pokemon that have 2 typings, it will be their primary typing that their ability will come from, not their secondary one. However, there are special Pokemon that have 2 roles in the mechanics of the game, and each Pokemon has a limit to how much they can use their abilities each day, which depends on their level and evolution stage, with the lowest being 1 and the max being 12. First I'll explain the type abilities, then I'll explain the special abilities. Water types. These Pokemon water crops. Fire types. These Pokemon help in the kitchen, increasing the quality of food you make. Grass types. These Pokemon can use their unique abilities as grass types to fertilize your farm, increasing the quality of your crops. The stronger the Pokemon, the better the quality. Ground types. These Pokemon can till your farm for you, cutting down on time. Electric types. These Pokemon power various equipment and facilities. Flying types. These types are the fast travel of the game, with each one having a set number of times they can fast travel a day. Rock types. These types help out in the mines, doubling the amount of materials you dig up. Normal types. These Pokemon gather wild items, i.e. Pokemon craft items like what you see in Scarlet and Violet, wild plants, sticks, rocks, etc. Bug types. These Pokemon are needed for pollinating fruit plants and increase the amount of seeds you get from crops tended to by them. Dark types. These Pokemon gather artifacts and crafted items, rare items that you can fish up, excavate, and find in treasure boxes. However, each dark type has a chance of giving you an item that was taken from a townie, dropping their affection. The odds of this depend on the Pokemon's affection and what species it is. Psychic types. These Pokemon can tell you what the weather is going to be for a set amount of days. The number of days predicted varies. Fairy types. These Pokemon give your farm one random buff each day. Each Pokemon of this type only gives one buff, but the stronger they are, the stronger the buff. Think the Mario crops from Story of Seasons or the Rune Wonders from Rune Factory Frontier. Ice types. These Pokemon are essential to upgrading your food storage and ensuring your food lasts longer. Steel types. These Pokemon help in the crafting facilities, increasing the quality of anything you make with their aid. Poison types. These Pokemon scare away wild Pokemon that seek to eat your crops. Use wisely, as some Pokemon can only be obtained from luring them to your farm. Dragon types. These Pokemon increase the amount of money you gain from selling items. Ghost types. These Pokemon carry out tasks at night, cutting down on things you need to do the next morning. Fighting types. These types can be tasked with breaking rocks and tree stumps on your farm, turning them into stone and wood to be used in expanding your home or completing requests. Now, there are the Pokemon with special abilities. On top of their type ability, these Pokemon fulfill a particular role or provide a particular item. These items are obtained with the Harvest Basket. Item Pokemon are Wooloo, Mareep, Miltank, Beedrill, Combee, and every Pokemon that has ever had a Pokedex entry talking about how it drops bits of itself that are then used as food. With Wooloo and Mareep providing wool, Miltank providing milk, Beedrill and Combee providing honey, and the food Pokemon providing whatever food ingredients they drop, because there are too many to list them all and come up with names for. The Pokemon that fulfill a particular role are the Pokemon with the healer ability Chansey and Ordino. Chansey and Ordino fulfill the role of training aids, providing large boosts of EXP. If you've ever played a fan game with those trainers that hang around outside the gyms with full teams of Ordino or Chansey, or encountered those Chansey bases in Oras, that's basically what they are. However, they are only able to provide this service once a day. Pokemon with the healer ability act as the Pokemon Center of this game, allowing you to heal your Pokemon without using potions or ending the day. However, like with Chansey and Ordino, they only provide one total party heal a day. And it's at this point that you're probably wondering if Pokemon battles are still in this game. And yes, they are. However, they are more of a way to build your affection with other characters. Each character can be battled once a day, and they all have different levels of difficulty, which will scale with your farm's ranking, which is the progression system in this game, and I will explain more later. Now that we've got the farming system covered, I think we should start getting into the other features of this game before moving on to the plot. First, let's start with the character customization. At the start of the game, you get to pick your character's hair color, eye color, etc., basically the character creator from Scarlet and Violet, but with more options, and a more intuitive menu system. Then you get to pick one of 2 outfits for them to wear, and you pick your first Pokemon's type, and you get the option to either pick the Pokemon you want, or have the game give you a random Pokemon of that type. This is to give the player the option of getting the Pokemon they want if they want a specific one in mind, and cut down on the selection time. As much as I love Pokemon Spork, the number of options has caused me to get option stalls so many times. Later, you'll be able to make your own clothes and accessories, allowing you to customize your character further. Now, you will have noticed that I said pick the type and your first Pokemon, rather than your starter Pokemon. Well, that's because in this game, you'll be able to pick from any of the Pokemon types. This is because the usual starter trio wouldn't fit in this context. As even though Grass and Water would be super helpful early game, Fire wouldn't be of much help until you got the kitchen upgrade for your house. Which, based on the house upgrade progression from Story of Seasons, I'm going to put at the second upgrade. It'd be fun for those that want an early game challenge, but not great otherwise. So instead, you get to pick the type of your first Pokemon, then select from 3 options. For those of you that have played the fan game This Gym of Mine, think of the start of that game. As for the selection, I don't want to include all of the Pokemon from the entirety of Pokemon. This is supposed to be a nice, chill, cozy farm game. How are you supposed to have a nice chill time if you're constantly fighting to complete a dex of over 1,000 Pokemon? So instead, the selection will be a grab bag of Pokemon from all of the generations. Let's say 20 from each gen. That gives us a nice total of 180, which is just a little over the number of Pokemon there were in the first gen, and gives us a nice spread of representation. Am I going to list all of them? No. No one wants to listen to me go through the Pokemon equivalent of the phone book and list 180 Pokemon and the reasons for their inclusion. That'd be boring. Next up is home customization. What farming/life sim is complete without home customization? Like with Story of Seasons, Stardew Valley, and Animal Crossing, you get to customize your house. When you first move in, your home is little more than a one-room shack. However, if you have the materials and money, you'll be able to upgrade your shack to a house, which will have a pretty plain base design, but has a bathroom and a loo. However, for the next upgrade, not only do you get a bigger house with a separate sitting area and a kitchen, you can pick between 3 home styles. And like with Trio of Towns, these will be Western, Eastern, and Tropical. For the next upgrade, you will get a second floor, which is where your bed will move to, leaving the whole bottom floor to be the family/guest area. And the top floor will have 2 to 3 rooms, one of which will eventually be your child's room if you get married. I've always thought it was weird that the kids shared one massive room with you and your spouse. There's enough space for you to turn this one room into 2 and give your kids their own space. As for the decoration, that will work like the secret bases from ORAS, specifically ORAS because that game took what was done in the original RSE and improved it, unlike BDSP. The 2-story upgrade will also have the Western, Eastern, and Tropical designs, but they will also have some others that you can unlock by fulfilling requests. And on that note, requests. In town, there is a request board, where townies put up requests for various items or help with different tasks, which the player can take on and get rewards for, like the part-time jobs from Trio of Towns. And before we get too far away from the house, let's talk about cooking. This works like in Rune Factory Frontier or the tag teams in Rune Factory 5, where there is a little mini-game that you play. The quality of the materials has a large impact on the quality of the food prepared, but gets a perfect score in the minigame, and even mediocre ingredients can result in something exceptional. This minigame's difficulty varies depending on the complexity of the dish, the strength of the fire type helping you out, and the quality of the ingredients. Now we come to mining. This works like the underground in DPP, but with the added wrinkle of the stamina system. Mining costs stamina, and depending on the quality of your hammer, it can cost more or less. In the underground, you can mine ores, evolution stones, shards, precious gems, materials like rock, artifacts, fossils, bottle caps, plates, basically anything that you can find in the underground that isn't spheres. Now that we've got all of these materials, what do we do with them? Well, that's where the studios come in. Studios are buildings that you can build on your farm, and they let you turn items into different items, like turning wool into a wool ball, or wool cloth, turning wheat into flour, things like that. And I'm specifically thinking of the ones from Story of Seasons because I feel that's where it was done best. The buildings are cute and visually tell you what they do, and they do 3 different things around that theme. Trio of Towns, as much as I love it, downgraded these things. So, for this game, there are 5 studios. The one shaped like a potted plant gives you your farm stuff, seeds, fertilizer, things like that. The one shaped like a thimble or pincushion handles all the things to do with making your own clothes and accessories, from turning raw materials into more fine crafting items, into the clothes and accessories themselves, including accessories for your Pokémon. The one shaped like a cheese wedge handles all things dairy and condiment, from cheese to butter to mayonnaise to aioli. The one shaped like a jar is where you turn your crops into spices, preservatives, jams, and even wine. And finally, we have the one shaped like a Pokeball, which is where you make all of your Pokemon stuff, from battle items to Pokeblocks. You also get to upgrade them later in the story through requests and buying books at the bookshop in order to open up more options, particularly with the clothing and Pokemon ones. Now moving away from your homestead, we have the Ruins. Located between your farm and the town and a little off the beaten path is the ruins of some ancient temple or castle, which the museum curator is investigating and asks your help with. Aided by your Pokemon, you must venture into the ruins to gather artifacts and bring them back to the curator, fighting wild Pokemon along the way. The ruins have about 100 levels, with it getting more dangerous as you venture down. Every 5 to 10 floors, you come out to a single room floor with a large treasure chest in the center, and encounter a boss fight with a particularly nasty wild Pokemon. The challenge with this dungeon, however, is that if you run out of Pokemon and experience a whiteout, you lose not only all of the items you picked up in the dungeon, but some of the items you had in your inventory before you entered, with the exception of your tools. This is a fusion of the Pokerogue fan game and the blackout mechanics from Legends Arceus. And while we're on the subject of artifacts, the museum. Yes, this town has a museum, but it's small and only newly established because the museum curator, an eccentric rich person with a love for history, heard about the ruins near the town and decided to build an entire museum to house all of the artifacts that are sure to be found in it. Along with the ancient artifacts, you can also donate ore, gems, fossils, plants, and photos of Pokemon, and these will go to upgrading the museum, allowing you to revive fossils and get other perks for exploring the ruins and the underground. Now we come to one of my favourite aspects of cozy games, the festivals! I will be going over these by season and in order and explaining each of them as they come up. One thing that is shared among all of the festivals, and therefore will be mentioned here, is that participating automatically increases your affection with all of the townies by 1,000. For competitions, if you win, you gain an extra 2,000 for a total of 3,000. Also for contests, they have various levels of difficulty, with each level being unlocked after you win the previous difficulty. The higher level of difficulty you win, the better the prizes you get. Some of which are recipes, new designs for your house, blueprints for things to build on your farm, or clothing patterns. Now, if you will please direct your eyes back to the screen for this segment so that you can see each of the season's calendars as they come up. Spring. New Year's Day. The day after New Year's Eve, and mostly just a day off. The Water Race, a bi-seasonal festival where you enter your water-type Pokemon to win a race around the river. There are 3 levels of difficulty to this festival minigame. Each level of difficulty adds more obstacles for you to avoid and improves the AI of the opponents. It is held in spring and autumn. The Cooking Contest, a bi-seasonal festival where you use your own crops and ingredients to cook your best dishes. There are 4 levels of difficulty, with the hardest difficulty requiring you to make dishes of 4 stars or higher to win. It is held in spring and autumn. Pokémon Catching Contest, a seasonal competition where you need to catch a Pokémon of a particular type, and the person who catches the best wins. Like the bug catching competition from Gen 2, but with more Pokémon types. Each competition has a different type and it cycles through them, hence why it's seasonal rather than yearly. It was either this or have it be yearly, but have the type be randomized. Bad idea. Seasonal Crop Festival, a seasonal festival where you and other farmers enter your best crops from that season to see who's best. It has 4 levels of difficulty, with the hardest requiring you to provide crops of 5 stars or higher. Winning this contest increases the amount you can sell your crops of the season you won in. So, if you win the Spring Crop Festival, your spring crops sell for higher prices from then on. Flower Festival, a day where people give each other flowers to show they care. On this day, even townies that normally don't like flowers will be happy to receive them, and they give you double affection. Summer, the Cross Country Race, a bi-seasonal festival where you enter with one of your Pokémon to win a race. It is held every summer and winter. Pokémon Contest, a yearly festival that has the residents of the town participate in a Pokémon contest. Fireworks Festival, a festival where everyone gathers to watch fireworks. Invite a special someone to the event for a date. Fashion Contest, a bi-seasonal festival where you dress in your best homemade duds in order to impress the judges. You are given a theme and must earn points by wearing an outfit that matches that theme. Different outfits give different levels of points depending on the materials used to make it, its style, and its colors. If you've ever played Story of Seasons and participated in any of its fashion shows, you've got the idea. It is held in summer and winter. Autumn! Valentine's Day. On this day, girls give gifts of chocolate or chocolate treats to others. If playing as a girl, these gifts will be taken as friendship gifts by anyone that the MC is not dating. If playing as a boy, talking to a girl that you have enough affection with will result in you receiving a chocolate treat of some kind. You can also ask your special someone to a date on this day. Town Pokemon Battle Tournament. A yearly tournament where the residents of the town engage in Pokemon battles in order to win a prize. There are 4 difficulty levels to this contest. White Day, the companion festival to Valentine's Day, where the boys give chocolates to the girls. The same as Valentine's Day, but with the genders reversed. Winter. Christmas. What it says on the tin. However, in this game, the town has a Secret Santa event, so you're going to need to figure out a present to give to the person that you're the Secret Santa of. Also, if you guess who your Secret Santa is and thank them, you'll get an extra boost to your affection. New Year's Eve, a festival where the whole town gathers in order to greet the new year. Okay, I think I've covered all the mechanics and features. So with that done, let's get into the story and characters, of which I'm only going to be talking about the bachelors and bachelorettes, as I've already mentioned a few of the side characters and I really just want to focus on the love interests, of which there are 4 of each, and you can woo any one of them. Let's start with the bachelors. Akira, written with the character for wisdom/philosophy. The local professor. His research focuses on the effects that Pokemon have on agriculture, for better or worse. He's a bit of a workaholic and can come off as cold. This is because he grew up in a broken home, with a father that was an alcoholic and a mother that was largely absent due to needing to work to support the family. This part isn't outright stated for the sake of keeping a Y rating, but it's referenced enough that any adult can read between the lines. Like adult jokes in kids' cartoons. Part of the reason that he went into science is because of the paycheck. His storyline focuses on him opening up to you and learning to embrace his other interests rather than casting them aside because it doesn't make money. Seuma, written with the characters for artisan and genuine. Sweet and a true gentleman, this young man practices traditional Pokeball craft. It is a tradition that has been passed down in his family. He is the oldest of 4 siblings and was set to be the next head of the family until he got sick with pneumonia and his lungs never fully recovered. In the interest of improving his health, he was sent to live in the country with his elderly aunt and uncle. After a year of living in the country and no permanent improvement to his lung condition, he abdicated his claim to the position of family head to his younger brother and decided to remain in the country and become the town's Pokeball crafter. His storyline revolves around this backstory and its repercussions, namely how strained the relationship has become between him and his little brother, who is now the new heir. Will, after William Shakespeare. A bit of an airhead but sweet and cheerful, this young man is a poet who is hoping to gain some inspiration from the beauty of the local area. His story is a mirror to your own, having a parent that disapproved of his career choice. However, unlike you, his other parent did support him and helped him get his start in publishing his poems. As a result, he feels like he owes it to his second parent to chase this path right to its end, and can't even get a day job when his inspiration dries up because that would be time taken away from his poetry and he might end up never going back to it. His story revolves around the two of you bonding over the shared experience of having a disapproving parent, while also helping him work through his creator's block and helping him understand that he doesn't have to be a literally starving artist. Jin, after Ginger. Laid back but loyal and reliable, Jin is a fellow farmer who grew up on his family's farm, which neighbours your own. He is very enthusiastic about there being another farmer in town, and that someone is trying to bring some life back into the old abandoned farm. His family helps you out during the first week, acting as the game's tutorial. After that, you buy fruit and veg seeds from them if you don't want to go to the general store. Jin's story revolves around his family and the bonds they share, often showing how much they rely on each other and how Jin wants to make them proud but doubts himself. Jin has a large family, with his mom, his dad, his 2 little siblings, and 2 mentioned older siblings that have married and moved away. Now the bachelorettes. Kinuyo, after Kinuyo Tanaka, a famous Japanese actress. Timid but determined, Kinuyo is the daughter of the flower shop owner and an aspiring Broadway actress. Her story revolves around this goal and her reasons behind it. Her mother, who's passed away, used to be a wonderful singer and taught her how, helping her gain confidence, at least on the stage. She wants to bring joy to others with her performances the same way her mother brought her joy. However, the town doesn't have anything in the way of a theatre, so she needs to go into the city in order to pursue her dream, which makes her anxious. Winter, a reference to the Guardian Sign's female protagonist. Adventurous and energetic, this young woman is the local ranger working to help the humans and Pokémon of the area. Winter was inspired to become a ranger after she was saved by a mysterious Pokémon when she was little. Her storyline revolves around her wish to meet that Pokémon once again and thank it for saving her. Fuzuki, written with the characters for Sentence and Moon. The friendly and cheerful delivery girl of the town. Fuzuki takes great pride in her work as a delivery girl, getting up at the crack of dawn to ensure that everyone's mail is delivered on time and with a smile. Which makes it pretty ironic that she herself is dyslexic, meaning that her handwriting is little more than chicken scratch, her spelling isn't much better, and it can take her hours to read or write a letter herself. I say this as someone who is dyslexic myself. Fuzuki's story revolves around her trying to overcome this weakness so that she can write letters to you and her family back in the city and read letters sent to her. Ren/Serenity, a reference to Selphie from Rune Factory Frontier. Ren is a curious and passionate girl with a love for books. She is also a noblewoman/princess that ran away from home to escape an arranged marriage. She moves into the town a little after you and moves into the abandoned library, turning it into a combination of a library and a bookshop. Her story revolves around the consequences of her running away and her increasingly Looney Tunes-esque attempts to hide from her family. Now that we've established the bachelors and bachelorettes, let's talk about your character. You play as the son/daughter of a champion who has been trained by their parent to one day follow in their footsteps and become the next champion. You, however, don't want to be champion. You just want to have a nice, quiet life in the countryside. Your parent has never been supportive of your dream. So, after spending your younger years pretending to follow your parents' plan, you use the money you've saved up from your years of battling and selling nuggets and star shards to secretly buy a little plot of land and a house in the country and run away to start your new life. When you arrive, you find your farm isn't in the best shape and your house is little more than a shack. But hey, you get what you paid for, and you can't help imagining the possibilities of this essentially blank canvas. From there, you build up your farm, getting to know the townspeople and increasing your farm's rank by completing requests, conquering the ruins, winning festivals, and improving your relationships with the people in town. Eventually, news of your farm's rise reaches your parents' attention and they come to confront you. During the battle, it's revealed that they have a fully evolved version of your starter at level 100. After the battle, it's revealed that they were going to give you their blessing to follow your dream the night you ran away. Think of Norman from Pokémon Adventures. Before they leave, they give you a gold leaf necklace that is a family heirloom, telling you to give it to someone special. There is a tradition in this region to propose using a gold leaf, and your family has been using this leaf to propose to their spouses for generations. And that, everyone, is it. So, what do you think? Does this sound like a spin-off you'd be interested in playing? Can you think of a mechanic or feature that should be in a Pokemon farming sim that I didn't mention? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Rune. See you in the next story.